Welcome everybody to this entry skill tutorial for some basic Photoshop editing techniques. See, the reason for this tutorial is just to give you that quick and easy approach to preparing your images to use in your magazine front cover design. So I've got 3 different pictures that I'm going to edit here to emphasize different skills. First things first, removal of a background. So this one here, I'm just going to make sure I've selected the layer and I can click remove background. It's very simple. This is the AI in Photoshop that does this for us, and it does a fantastic job of doing this. Admittedly, it's not always perfect, and that's why I'm going to use a second example to basically prove that point. Obviously, I might do this so then I can create a new background or a gradient background, so watch that tutorial as well. So then I can create 2 layers in my InDesign file, so I can put my title in between the 2 layers. I'm making that contemporary look for a masthead, which is usually behind your focal image. So that's worked effectively there. However, sometimes it doesn't work perfectly. So if I click remove background here, predictably it's going to leave some grey where the fringe is, as we can see around this. So now I need to manually edit out my the grey colour. So to do that, I've zoomed in. I'm going to go into the eraser tool, and top left corner you can change the size of the eraser tool. So you can see it's a lot bigger there. That's going to be a lot more messy. We want to make it as small as we possibly can, which is an individual pixel. Now what we can do, yes, it is quite a monotonous job, and it's time consuming, but it's ultimately going to lead to better results. We can start to remove the grey bit by bit, and it will lead to much more successful results. Now I'm working at a pixel here, so I'm going to actually zoom in even more. Go back to my eraser tool, and I can actually see more clearly where the lighter grey is. And I think these are the key areas that I want to remove. It's going to allow a little colour in a new background to come through much more successfully, creating an effective result when we make our reader think that that background was always the original background. So now if I zoom out, okay, it looks messy there, but if we were to add a new background colour, change the layers there, you can see the blue coming through. Okay, that does look messy right now, but that's why you need to take more time to do this, and it will become much more successful. So that's a long way of doing it, but it will become much more effective. Right, so that's that. The next thing I'm going to do is use this portrait image to show how I can crop it. So yes, this is okay. This is a nice ratio of this image, but I just want to crop it a little bit closer. So if I click the cropping tool, and I can just move all this, I can change the size of it, but this loses the aspect ratio, which is always frustrating. So to lock your aspect ratio, you need to click Alt, and that fixes, or you'll see it as Option on some of your keyboards, it fixes the aspect ratio of the original image. And you can move it, and then you can't change it. You can change it to a landscape. We don't want that anyway because it's a magazine cover. So I've locked it. Okay, for the sake of that, I'm happy with that. Enter. Right, I've cropped the image. I now want to remove some blemishes. So I'm going to retouch the image ever so slightly. So over here, I'm going to go to the healing brush tool. I'm going to select the spot healing brush tool, and I'm going to zoom in to some blemishes. So we've got one here. This tool will only work if the image is in focus. So you'll notice it. Oh, I click on it, nothing. It just removes. But the more we do with this, it becomes blurred and it doesn't look as effective. What I like to do, just remove all of this. What I like to do is actually use the healing brush tool. To do that, I have to select an area that I want to effectively clone. So I'm going to just change the size of it ever slightly. So I want to clone this part of the skin here and then replace it to there to cover the blemish. I can't select anything right now, and it's saying you need to define a source point. that is going to basically steal and copy over. So that's why there's a black circle around it. If I select Alt, that creates a target line. If I just click on that and let go, I can now add that on top. You can see it's removed. It has removed the blemish. There's still red skin around it, so we need to define that a little bit more. But again, so if I was to go here, you see it's a darker area of skin, so that wouldn't work if I did it there. So again, what I do is I'm going to cloud this part of the skin, and then I'm going to replace it there. I've got rid of another blemish. Again, there's a bit there, so I need to try and find a similar shade. What I've done there, as you can see, I've started to remove blemishes. Now, I don't want us to get into this routine of feeling that it's automatic and it's necessary to remove blemishes, because that just becomes a bit unethical. We don't want to work like that. Everyone has their imperfections and we need to embrace those. So that's all I'm going to do in regards to that. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to brighten up my image a little bit and play around with the contrast just to make it a much crisper image. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down to adjustment there, and I'm going to click brightness and contrast. I'm just going to room up the brightness all the way to the top. We don't obviously want that. That burns out the image, makes it overexposed. So 0 is where it was at. I'm going to raise it to about 15. And then contrast. Again, what that does is it increases the contrast between light and dark, highlights and shadows. 0. That's what it was. And if I just increase it a little bit, it's creating a much crisper difference between your dark and light colours. I think that works much more effectively now. So if I click on this layer here, brightness and contrast, with the eye on it, that turns it on and off. We can see that there are just slight improvements which just enhance the image slightly. I always like to add an extra adjustment layer called vibrance, and that just helps to kind of bring out some of the colours in it. So I'm just going to move that up a little bit, and we'll notice that that's going to just enrich the rainbow colours, and the saturation is just going to brighten things up a little bit more as well. So again, if I remove that, we can see what it was like before and after. Much better. And obviously I can then file, save the image, and then I'm happy to start working with that. Remember though, guys, when you work with Photoshop and you want to put it into InDesign, just save it as a Photoshop document, because then when you import it into InDesign, if you need to make any changes afterwards, you can always edit it within Photoshop from an InDesign file. Okay, so always do it that way. And that's the end. Thank you.